Lesson 1. La word el and its cousin with an accent, el. Hello, how are you? Today we are going to start with the most common word in all el Spanish language. Yes, number 1. El that is said, written and thought the most times. And it is a small word with only 2 letters, el. But be careful, because it has a cousin almost the same, el, with an accent mark above la e. And although they sound the same, they are not the same thing. Don't worry, I am going to explain lo to you slowly. Let's start with el without an accent. This word is one of those we put in front of things to point las out, to say that thing we already know which one it is. When you say el libro, you don't talk about any libro in el world, but about a specific one that you and I have in our heads. If you said un libro, it would be anyone from el group. But el libro is that book, el on la table, the one you were reading last night, the one your aunt gave you. And look at something important. El is used only with masculine and single things. That is, one single thing and one of those that in Español we call masculine. El car, el day, el son, el dog, el tree, el coffee, el telephone, el love, el fear. All these words take el in front because ellas are masculine and go one by one. Now, el doesn't walk alone through life. El has a whole family, and it's good that you know lo today because ellos always walk together. If la thing is feminine and alone, we use la instead of el. La house, la table, la moon, la mother, la school, la soup. If there are several masculine things, we use los books, los days, los dogs, los friends. If there are several feminine things, we use las houses, las tables, las sisters, las flowers. 4 siblings, el, la, los, las.
Learn this family and you already have half the work done. There is an interesting trick that you should know. Sometimes in front of a feminine word, we say el instead of la. How? Yes, you have heard correctly. We say el agua, el águila, el alma, el hambre. Why does this happen? Because those feminine words start with a strong a, an a that sounds with force. And if we said la agua, las 2 a's would come together and would sound bad. So to make it easier to say, we put el. But la word is still feminine. That's why we say el agua fría and not el agua frío. Interesting, right? Another thing about la family, when el joins with la word a or with la word de, ellos come together and form one word. A el becomes al. Voy al mercado, voy al cine, voy al doctor. And de el becomes del. Vengo del trabajo, la puerta del carro, el color del sky. It only happens with el, not with la, los, or las. We say voy a la casa, not a la together, but voy al parque, all together. It is one of those small things that Español does to sound better. Now we go with el cousin, el with an accent mark. This word no longer points to a thing, but changes to a person, normally a man or a boy, or sometimes a male animal. When you say, él vive en Madrid, you are talking about a person, a man, a boy, someone real. It is like when you do not want to repeat el name. Instead of saying, Juan trabaja, Juan come, Juan duerme, you say, él trabaja, él come, él duerme. Easy, right? And here comes el trick to not confuse L without an accent mark with L with an accent mark, which is one of the most common doubts. Listen well. L without an accent mark never goes alone. L always carries behind L a thing, a noun. El book, el car, el dog.
L needs a partner. On the other hand, L with an accent can go alone because it is already a complete person. If I say L to you, you understand that person. But if I say L to you, you expect me to say something more. El what? El cat? El day? That is el trick. If la word can be alone and is already understood, it has an accent. If it needs another word after ella, it does not have an accent. El also has its family, just like él. There is ella for a woman or girl. There are ellos for a group of men or a group of men and women. And there is ellas for a group only of women. Ella sings, ellos play, ellas study. And together with yo, tú, nosotros, and vosotros, ellos form la big family of personal pronouns, which nosotros use to talk about who does each thing. And there is one more thing. El is also used after some prepositions. For example, this gift is for él. I go with él to the movies. We talked about él yesterday. See that here, él still means that person, that man, that boy. I am going to tell you a little story so you can see last two words working together. Imagine Mateo, a boy about 10 years old, in his abuela kitchen on a domingo morning. It smells like toasted bread and coffee. La abuela is cutting an apple. Mateo looks at la table and sees an old book with worn covers. Grandma, whose book is it? Él asks, and la abuela, without looking up, answers, that book was Grandpa's. Él read-lo many times when él was young. Mateo opens el book slowly. On la first page, there is a dedication with blue ink. For él with love, it says. Mateo smiles. There, in a single scene, las two cousins appear. El book, la thing, and él, la person. El grandpa is no longer here, but el book stays on la table, and Mateo opens-lo with hands that are a little shaky. And now, curious act, because this word so small has a long history. El comes from Latin, from a word that sounded similar to ille, which in Old Latin meant that one. Yes, before it was a word to point to things far away, like when you say that tree al back. Over los centuries, people used lo so much and so fast that letters fell off, it became shorter, and in the end only el was left. La same story has el with an accent. It comes from the same place. That's why ellos are cousins. Ellos share a Latin grandfather. Lo curious thing is that in other sister languages of Spanish, like Italian, French, or Portuguese, el artículo also starts with similar sounds because they all come from el same Latin ille. A very big family spread across Europa. There are also some popular sayings with el that are worth knowing. For example, el who tries to do too much does little well, which means that if you want to do too many things at once, none of them turn out well for you. Or el who laughs last laughs best, which is said when someone wins in the end, after it seemed like ellos were losing. Or that beautiful expression, to touch el sky with your hands, for when you are very, very happy. Look how many times el appears in sayings. It is everywhere. And one last thing in case you come across lo. In some Latin American countries, especially in Argentina and parts of Central America, sometimes young people use vos instead of tú. But el and el stay the same everywhere. That is one of the few things that does not change from one country to another. From España to México, from Argentina to Cuba, from Colombia to Ecuatorial Guinea, el libro es el libro y él vive aquí es él vive aquí. A word that unites everyone who speaks Spanish. Quick summary before we say goodbye. El without an accent is the word we put in front of masculine and single things, like el car or el day. Ello has its family, la for feminine single, los for masculine plural, las for feminine plural. Se joins with a and with de, forming al and del. And el with an accent is el cousin that replaces a masculine person. El eats, el lives, el works. El trick to not confuse yourself, el without an accent never goes alone. It always has a thing after ello. El with an accent can stay alone because it is already a whole person. And with this, we close la first lesson, la about number 1 on la list. You have learned la most used word in español, nothing less. Have a good day and we will see each other in la next lesson, okay?